Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm June Rawl, the director for IPDAE, and I welcome all of you to IPDAE's year-end recap. Today, joining me, I have some of our subject matter experts and facilitators from IPDAE joining us, Ariel Pichokas from Lorenzo Walker Technical College, along with Yolanda Flores, and Ronald Cruz from Hillsborough County, Ian Morgan from Pinellas County, and Maria Gutierrez from Miami Sunset Adult Education Center. As you know, we do have some things that we have to go over, some housekeeping rules. All your microphones are muted and you are in listen-only mode. Please put your questions into the Q&A option that's on your screen. This recording, like all IPDAE's recordings, are archived within 48 hours on the IPDAE website. So again, we're so happy that you could join us today. For our agenda today, here are some things that we're going to talk to you about. We're going to talk to you about this new training module that is really focused on integrated education and training. We're going to talk about some research-based strategy practices, some work that we did with the Regional Educational Laboratories Southeast Group. We're going to then turn our focus over to some regional workshops that we did specifically for those serving in correction facilities, and then also some best alignment work and some best workshops that we did. We're going to then talk about some distance learning and some new things and new tools that we have for you regarding distance learning. I hope all of you were able to participate in the Career Pathway Institute. So if you weren't, I just want to give you a little overview on how you can access those materials now. There's lots of new stuff on the IPDAE web platform. So I want to pull your focus and your attention to that so you can see what's there as you go into your new academic year. You know, I just want to mention that all of us play such an integral part in preparing all of our students to be globally competitive for colleges and careers. And you know, it's really going to take all of us to be able to move this vision forward. So I'd like to end this webinar today reminding us of Florida's 4 strategic priorities that they've laid out for us to be #1 in workforce education by 2030. So at this point, I am going to turn it over to Maria Gutierrez, who is going to explain this new e-training module that's really focused on IET. I think you're going to really find this really helpful. Maria?
Thank you, June. Good afternoon, everyone. So yes, like June said, my name is Maria Gutierrez, and I am a site administrator and Blue Apple project manager for Miami-Dade County Public Schools. You know, it's truly a pleasure to be here with you today to address the critical topic of integrated education and training that most of us just simply refer to as IET. We are currently developing some amazing training modules on the topic based on your requests, and I will share some information on these in a minute. But first, I want to give you a little background on the purpose behind this project. Last year, Governor DeSantis issued Executive Order 19-31, which set an ambitious goal for Florida to become #1 in workforce education by 2030. Now, one essential component in meeting this ambitious goal is the development of IET programs throughout the state. IET approaches are effective in part because they do recognize that busy working adults need opportunities to acquire basic skills in a meaningful context that has an immediate application, that enables credential attainment, and that can directly increase their earning power. Adult education plays a vital role in assuring that more than 1.2 million Floridians without a high school diploma are not left behind. So adults without a secondary credential, they're just not qualified to enter post-secondary educational programs where they can acquire critical job skills to facilitate credential attainment and increased earning power. In response, IPDAE is committed to providing resources and training to support practitioners throughout the state in creating and implementing successful IET programs that will help Florida reach its goal. Advance. Now, we at IPDAE have provided a myriad of trainings throughout the school year thus far, but we specifically began providing IET trainings back in late 2020. It'd be very time consuming to list all of the IET related trainings that we have offered, but some of the most requested ones are featured here. And these include developing a single set of learning objectives in IET. This aired back in October of 2020. Introduction to Entrepreneurship and Innovation, both parts 1 and 2, which aired in late December and January of this year. The Beginner's Guide to IET, provided in February of this year. Moving IET awareness for beginners to contextualized application in any program, more recently aired in May of this year. Building a robust career pathway for adult education. And then student progression timeline, engaging students from ABE to job placement, which was just held in early June. And the last one, IET and community industry partnerships, which aired in mid-June. Advance. Now, we do understand that IET is a difficult service approach simply because it has so many requirements that most adult educators are just not accustomed to integrating simultaneously. That being said, IPDAE has laid the foundation for the development of 30-minute IET training modules that will address each of these components individually and that will walk you guys through integrating them so that they actually function cooperatively within your IET program. The initial IET overview model has already been created and provides an easy to understand compact definition of IET and all of its required components. In essence, it lays the groundwork for subsequent IET topics and modules. Now, some of the IET topics we plan to expand on in these modules include the 3 required IET components, additional requirements for consideration when building an IET, breaking down concurrent and contextualized instruction. So in other words, what does each look like? Selecting occupationally relevant instructional materials for basic skills instruction, workforce preparation, and workforce training. Digging deeper into creating single sets of learning objectives under various career pathways. And finally, looking at highlighted IET programs under each of the 5 IET modules. Now, I truly look forward to sharing these modules with you in the upcoming school year, so please be sure to join me. And now I'll turn it over back to June.
Maria, thanks so much. We know that this module is going to be really essential as we deliver as much information as we can regarding IET. But next, I want to bring Ann Morgan to the mic, and she's going to share some highlights of work that we did with our partners at the Regional Educational Laboratories. Ann?
Thanks, June. I'm Ann Morgan. As June said, I serve as a coordinator and grant manager for adult education here in Pinellas. In 2020, Pinellas was very fortunate to be able to partner with REL and with Kevin Smith and Lori Lee, who are absolutely fantastic, for a study on recruitment, retention, and persistence in adult education. We were asked to select a strategy to focus on, and we selected the one you see here. Starting intake, orientation, and instruction with goal setting and matching students to classwork based on their needs, and also addressing negative attitudes toward education. As we know, many of our students have had some negative experiences in the past. So trying to ameliorate those a little bit. We wanted to try the strategy in both ABE, GED, and ESOL classes to gauge how different populations would react to the strategy. We set up an experimental group where we applied this strategy and the control group where we did not. We also wrote this up in our professional learning network as a training where our participating teachers could earn a small stipend as well as component points towards their certification. Since we were focusing on goal setting, we allowed each teacher to select their own goal setting resources, to use the SMART goals system, which you may be familiar with, and to use a different template. All groups also used a barriers to success worksheet to initiate discussions with students and set the tone. During the orientation, teachers also took time to discuss any negative experiences the student may have encountered in previous educational settings. Advance. We had a small group of students, 28 altogether, who were only identified with initials and pre-selected to be entered into either the control or the experimental group. And we did that before we did anything else. The teachers applied the goal setting strategy to the experimental group at initial intake and followed up with bi-weekly teacher-student data progress chats. And you can see the instructional hours for the goal setting group far exceeded the control group, who did not have those goal setting sessions. This was done over a 9-week period. Advance. One aspect that made this project really work for us was the fact that we had surveyed our teachers at our annual district-wide training just a few months before we partnered with REL. Um, we posed 5 questions to the teachers, asking them about best practices, procedures, ideas to improve their craft. We then took those survey answers and compiled a wonderful list of great ideas and strategies our teachers could use in their classrooms. The ones you see here spoke directly to student success, resilience, and goal settings. So our teachers, and there was 150 full and part-timers, were primed to take on and use some of these strategies we'd shared with them. I can tell you we were so grateful to REL for this opportunity, and we wanted to continue to build on what we learned through the study about goal setting. That goal setting, addressing barriers and negative attitudes towards success, regularly occurring teacher student progress chats can really translate into improved student retention, resilience, and more instructional hours, which frankly, that's how we get paid, right? So, one of the things you see on here is many of the teachers talked about having visuals in the classroom. Many of them have, students in their graduation gowns, copies of diplomas, but we kind of wanted to bring in this year a little bit of the IET focus. So go ahead and advance, June. What we did was we said we're going to take this goal setting and we're going to create a visual in every classroom that talks about what those what pathway the students have chosen. So we added a new facet by highlighting the student career goals to create a visual board. We let the teachers use their own style. And we know there's teachers, sometimes those teachers that come out of elementary just know how to do bulletin boards. They're just a little better. And so let me just walk you through these 5 examples, and every classroom's got one, and they're all different. But I just thought they're really cool for a lot of reasons. Starting with the top left, you see which step will you choose. Students create their step with their career pathway and they write their name and they put it on the board. Very simple. The next one in the middle has the career cluster, and in the boxed arrow they have whatever the career cluster is, manufacturing or human services, and then underneath are the names of the students and what particular career they're looking for in that. The one to the right of that, very simple. These are actually flyers for career clusters. And she put them on the board, and you can see it doesn't have all the bells and whistles of some of the other ones, but still effective. Students write their name and their career on a sticky note, and they put it on the career poster. Down here in the bottom left, this one came out really great. And again, it doesn't look real fancy schmancy, but what they've done is this teacher is actually at one of our technical centers, and this is the program for the brochure for the technical center. And she has, if you look at the pink one on the right, you'll see several names on that. That's 11 students that are going into LPN, and the arrow is pointing to the LPN. And the really great thing about this is she has this ready-made cohort of 11 students who are all going into the same career. So she's able to use all of her health science IET lessons. She says it's amazing how once the students know who else is in their group, they're helping each other, they're studying together, they're working on all sorts of projects together. She's told me that now since this happened, that class has started and the students are still very connected. And it just gave them that opportunity to really bond with students who are going in that same career area. Um, Now the last one on the right, this is my creative teacher, and she's a big Dr. Seuss fan. So she created it on all of the places you will go. And each one of the little squiggly lines is a career pathway. And then the students write their names on balloons and put the balloon on the particular pathway that they're interested in. So again, the students are excited. They love seeing it. At first, some of the teachers were kind of reluctant. They're like, "Oh, they're not going to want to do that." But the students, as soon as a new student walks in, they go, "Hey, what's your career pathway? Yeah, get on the board." So again, something simple, a visual doesn't have to be something, but now everybody that walks in that room knows who's in that career cluster, who's in their cohort, what's going on, and just makes it easier for the teacher to be able to get those lessons out and target them to each specific cohort. So it was a great kind of a combo of taking that goal setting strategy and applying it to kind of a new way of bringing IET into the classroom.
And that's excellent. I really love those visual boards. Congratulations to your teachers. That's really some nice work.
Thank you.
Okay, well, next up, I'm going to bring Ronald Cruz on, and we're going to take a look at some work that we did with those who are serving in the correctional facilities. We had a great time going out to the 4 regional workshops around the state, and we met some fantastic people doing some amazing work there. So congratulations to all of you. And then Ron is going to follow up by some work that we've been doing that centers around the best alignment work. So Ron, I'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you so much, June. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I just wanted to go over very quickly our updates for the regional corrections workshops. We had conducted 4 regional workshops, all within the first 4 regions of the corrections facilities and jails. What we did was we dived into exploring how to implement integrated education and training in the corrections setting. We started talking about contextualized instruction and really reinforcing how contextualized instruction in IET looks like and how it's different from your regular contextualization that you do on a daily basis. We also went over some initial training on how to develop some single set of learning outcomes for those IET programs of studies that they are planning to implement in the corrections facilities. We talked about addressing some of the challenges in the implementation of IET because at the correctional facilities, they have very, very limited resources and access to technology. So we after that, we talked about really diving deep into how a lesson plan looks like in an IET setting. And then we finished off the 4 workshops. Now, I want to also talk about where we're going into the upcoming year, just to give you guys a little bit of a teaser that we are going to continue to unravel and develop contextualized instruction, reinforce the development of single set of learning outcomes, and continually solve some of the issues that corrections facilities are encountering in the implementation of IET. And we are going to start offering some one-on-one technical assistance to larger larger correctional institutions or groups of institutions that wanted to develop an IET starting this upcoming year. Last but not the least, we're going to update them with what are the changes to the best standards. Advance to the next slide. And so with regards to the best standards, I want to just go over that this year we went over some of the insights from the side-by-side comparison between the best standards and our current standards, which is aligned with the college and career readiness standards. We're also going to, or we also did, capitalize on the features of the best standards, especially those that already teach K-12 and also teach adult ed at night. We had a deeper dive into the alignment project, allowing the participants to kind of see, okay, what are they looking for? What are we aligning to? And that was a very enlightening experience for a lot of teachers, and they see how much detail goes into this work. We talked about some of the results and recommendations of the alignment project, and which are not very surprising for a lot of the teachers, because all of this is already covered by some of the pronounced changes of the best. Last but not the least, we explored on how the best standards for adult education is going to bleed into our work as we progress into implementing IET service approach and the implications of those standards into our classroom, whether we're doing our classes in person or virtually. So I'm super, super excited for the upcoming year, June. And we are going to continue our work with both the best standards and corrections regional workshops.
Yes, thank you so much, Ron. It was lots of fun traveling around the state and doing these workshops. So I appreciate your efforts on that. So next up, I want to turn the mic over to Yolanda and Ariel, and they're going to talk about distance learning and blended learning and some findings that they had on a pilot that they did. So Yolanda and Ariel, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you now.
Thank you so much, June. As you know, all of us for the past year have been experiencing the pandemic. But with that, having said that, we need to focus on the positive. And I think one of the positives that the pandemic has brought, that it has created a sense of urgency of something that we've spoken for so long, but like anything else, we're always too busy, never enough time to dedicate to that. And that is that distance learning. Now there's no turning back. So the big need was, how do we help build that digital literacy with our teachers, not only our students, but our teachers, so that the instruction could continue and can continue moving forward using a digital platform. So I'll turn it over to Ariel, who's going to fill in the pieces.
Yeah, so one of the things that occurred was IPDAE was able to bring a team of us together to kind of discuss and identify the key needs and goals across the state, really focusing on about relevant professional learning, all focused on adult educators that incorporate and develop digital instruction skills and the integration of key strategies for learners, their retention of those learners and their learning outcomes. Advance. And so what we worked with was, we worked within the Bloomboard pilot. It was roughly about a 2-month pilot that a few different districts participated. Instructional practices that could be used both in a traditional classroom or online classroom, in an online classroom environment, all through the incorporating a micro-credentials format or idea. What the intent there was to start to introduce to instructors also, what does a micro-credential look like? What do they lead to? As we're all now exploring more IET. Advance. So some key takeaways for us consisted of its flexibility. All activities revolved around relevant practices and real-world applications, specifically to the instructors, so that instructors could immediately implement some of these ideas, conversations, and strategies with students, and then bring them back to the group or to the classroom, to the virtual classroom, or to the pilot, I should say, to clarify, and be able to kind of reflect on what they did, how it worked, what takeaways they had, and what practices they might tweak or change for next time around. As many of you know, as we continue to refine your distance learning programs, and one of the things that that IPDAE has done is they've brought in and created a whole new distance learning assistance resource kit that's on the IPDAE portal. So I know June will be talking a little bit more about that as we move on. Thank you, June.
Oh, Ariel, Yolanda, thank you so much. Yolanda, did you have anything you wanted to say before we get into the Career Pathway Institute recap?
I think the only thing in terms of the Bloomberg project, as our teachers participated in that, our big aha with the training was that it reminded us that we needed to slow down, not only here if when we have our classes in session present, but also distance learning, and really concentrate on building those relationships with students. And that is more than critical in a distance platform, so that we don't lose those students. So very useful tips that every teacher can use with students, regardless of age level.
And really also then looking at basic things of establishing expectations and norms that are common across the group, ensuring that everybody within that group that's navigating it has the tools to navigate the content, but as well the resources or the tools to communicate with one another. So it's really bringing it down to a basic level, but ensuring that the students, just like the teachers, have all the tools and know-how and witness to really engage in the content when we're ready to dive into it.
As a result of having the opportunity to participate in this project, one of the things that we've decided to do as a district is to invest in that training for our teachers. So we're going to be establishing a cohort of teachers that we will be participating this fall in the training.
Love it. Building capacity. That's
absolutely
great.
We have to invest in our teachers if we want to move things forward.
Wow, thank you so much, Yolanda and Ariel. I now want to kind of review the Career Pathway Institute. We had a great time in June where we kicked off a virtual event, which happened 3 Thursdays in the month of June. I want to thank all of you who were able to attend the Career Pathway Institute, but not to worry if you didn't, because all of the segments are now archived and they're available for your for you to view. A little bit later, I'm going to take you through a look at some platform updates, and you're going to see where all those resources and those documents are going to be presented to you. But to access the Institute, you would simply go to this new channel that we have on the landing page, which is the Adult Education Career Pathway Career Connection channel. And then what you're going to do is select an area of interest. You'll see that the categories are all organized around what is really the main things to build a robust career pathway system. So you're going to see a lot of IET stuff there, program and implementation strategies, workforce roadmaps and partnerships, and we have those career pathway action guides there. So I'll take you through that in a little bit. And then if you just want to view the recording on our YouTube channel, you just simply go to the YouTube channel and then select the segment that you want to view. Just a little quick review, the Institute was organized in 3 different focus areas. The day one was a focus on the impacting the adult educators. So it was an adult educator focus. It talked about braided funding, collaborative networking, how we are shifting to this IET model. How do we empower our adult education program through data? How can we move that needle forward? And after each one of the days, we had an adult educator perspective in practice that was actually doing something that we just described. Day 2, we shifted over to the adult education student. And here we talked about what are those strategies and what are some of those solutions for us to break down the barriers that our students are facing in adult education. How do we move the needle on retention? How do we get those numbers up? And so there's segments there about some retention and research to practice models that will help you look at your programs and how you might invest in some of these strategies to improve your outcomes. We talked about the importance of articulation agreements. This is new to adult education, but if you look at this segment, you'll see where adult education can play a big role in developing articulation agreements around the state. And then again, we ended it with an adult student perspective in practice. Day 2, with the last day, we shifted our focus to employers and industry. Now, this is such a key word here because this is something we have to really constantly think about implementing into our programs, this industry focus here. We talked about developing industry partnership relationships, the importance of those. How do you do it? What are some tips that you can get started in building that? What about an apprenticeship program? What about a pre-apprenticeship program? How do you go about doing that? What are the steps? How can I get started? We then talked about career and workforce support opportunities. And then we ended it with a segment where we looked at a school in Miami-Dade County who had really showed some exemplary progress on really marrying that employer and industry focus. So I'll show you a little bit later about where to access all these great tools. You know, we always are depending on you to tell us what your needs are. It's so important to us to keep connected with you, and I thank you for all your emails and all your correspondence. If you haven't already participated in our recent survey, and the link is here and it will be in the chat for you too, please go ahead and do it. It's a very, very simple survey. It just lets us get a better understanding of what your needs are in the field. And now I'm really super excited to showcase one of the new updates on the platform. And it really centers on what Ariel was talking about, this distance learning. What we've compiled here for you is really a go-to spot for distance learning assistance. It's here to assist you, to support you with distance learning, okay? And it's just so easy to do. You're gonna go to the adult education toolbox, and there it's gonna drop down to a distance learning. I know that some of you have already gone out there and looked at it. There is just a lot of stuff here, some steps and tips to go virtual. There's a whole big piece on the transitioning to learning online. Here on this piece, you can download a roadmap document to guide you as you transition your students effectively to virtual instruction. Then there's an administrator best practicing for monitoring piece there. These are some really super great PDF files for you to use as you monitor your virtual experience in the classroom. And then really a checklist for you to go through and see how people are doing and how you can assist your staff and your teachers. And lastly, from the Department of Education, there's a guide for best practices for distance learning. Another great, exciting update revolves around career pathways and the Career Connection channel. Here you're going to find career connections and workforce-related resources for career opportunities to get there. We can't forget about this Get There initiative. It's all of our work is in direct support with Florida's education initiative called Get There. So all of these resources here can be found into these different categories that you see. you'll see some IET. And this is like paramount to us as we really integrate these workforce skills into our classroom. You're going to also find some fully developed single sets of learning objectives that we worked with around the state. And thank you, Ron, for championing that cause in helping them with that technical assistance. There's some program and implementation strategies, some evidence-based strategies for program retention and student persistence, and ways to really improve your data there. So lots of great stuff. There's action guides so that you have little notes that you can take and look at. So just a lot of great stuff that's there, and it will continually grow as we develop more content so that we can all, strive to move that trajectory forward for adult education, and again, on the road to making us #1 in workforce education. I want to really leave you and bring you back to these priorities. Now, we talk a lot, and you've heard a lot about these priorities because it's in your request for your proposal for the year. But there are 4 strategic priorities that the state has set out for us to achieve. And I just want to take a few minutes to go over those priorities with you. But I want to talk about the vision of Florida's adult education system. And it's really to hold the learners at the center and deliver outcomes that promote full participation in the workforce and result in high quality credentials and value, and close equity and achievement gaps. This work that we're all trying to work together is going to transform Florida's adult education system. So that is all guided by these priorities. I'm not going to really read all the priorities to you, but I'm going to highlight a few things in the priority. In priority 1, really look at that word regional partnerships. Look at the words improved learner outcomes. Regional partnerships, what does that mean? It really means that we're required to work together with regional entities towards the same goal. Improving learner outcomes. For AGE instructors, this basically refers to our measurable skill gains. For CTE instructors, it may refer to credential attainment, program completion or certification, completion of an apprenticeship program, etc. The bottom line is really simple on this goal. It's that we need to work together towards providing instruction that satisfies the employment requirements for high demand, high wage jobs, and lead students to employment in these areas. As we move our attention to priority 2, it's really those credentials of value and the post-secondary certification and industry recognized credentials. It really ties back to priority 1, and it really speaks to the attainment of LCPs, or that really the simple attainment of an LCP or an OCP is not really enough. We need to recognize that these credentials will help employers, focus on what the need is for these high wage employment opportunities. And then as we go into priority 3, we talk about this high quality instruction and the labor market needs and eliminating this equity and achievement gaps. Here it's really twofold. First, the instruction must be rigorous to meet the demands of a competitive job market. Second, instructional content should revolve around labor market needs. And additionally, it must address any existing gaps. The 4th priority is really about incent, measure, and support enhance program effectiveness. So that's what we're really leaning towards, and it really addresses priority 4, really adds to the content that we addressed in the first 3 priorities. When you think of incent, it really means for you to be bold and be creative and think about things that you can do to really help those students get to where they need to go. So I really wanted to just end it with kind of circling back to what these priorities mean and how important all of you are and all of us are as we work together to accomplish these goals. I'm going to now open it up for discussion. So if any of you, I'll ask our trainers if there's anything in the chat or if there's anything that we need to address there. I'm going to open it up. Do we see any questions? Maria, Ron, any questions? Yolanda?
I don't see any at this time, June. We've been answering them as you were talking, so.
Okay, well, that's great. So I just want to thank you again for joining us today. We really look forward to continue to serve you and your needs, and we wish you all the best in your new academic year. We're here, we still are here, we continue to be here to serve you. As you see, there is a feedback slide and it really matters to us. So please take a moment to answer these 3 short questions on this survey so that we can continue to improve our IPDAE training and resources. And while you do that, again, stay safe, be healthy, and thank you for every single thing that you do to help us in achieving our goals for our students.